Hey everybody, what's up? Welcome back to X-Pack. We're here to talk Texas for show. Have a good time. I'm Nico Action, Nico Actation. It's been a long week.
I'm TK Elemental.
And I'm your producer, Kevo at Kevo Really. Make sure that you like, subscribe, and comment so that we know what you want us to talk about in the future. But we're just here to sort of chat about this and that.
Oh, but no, actually, I've got some complaints.
That is what I hear.
I want to, first of all, it's been a really long week. I don't know if everybody's had a really long week. Like I've had a really long week, but I've had a really long week. I want to say that one of the things I love about doing this show is that I get to just kind of come and hang out with people that I love and talk with people. And that feels so good. And it is a nice, relaxing vibe. So I want to say that it's super fun just to be here with you guys. And it occasionally feels a little like the internet is your own personal place to scream. And that is always a nice feeling.
That's why the internet exists. That was the whole point of it.
It's the whole point of the internet. It's for screaming. But
yeah.
The internet and friendship, and that's what the Action Pack is all about, is combining the two. So here we are.
Are you wearing a European football jersey of some kind?
I'm so glad you fucking asked. So last year, I attended the coolest festival in Asbury Park. And at the end of the night, I noticed that there were these obscenely expensive European soccer style jerseys for See Here Now Festival.
Oh wow. I did not realize you owned that.
I did buy one. And
ultimately what I assumed was it was randomly some team that older boyfriend likes. That like he just gave you a jersey for.
No, but one time we did go like mad thrift hunting just for fun, and
Sure.
We like almost grabbed a jersey exactly like you're describing at exactly the right moment, but then some man got to it first.
The idea that he wants to thrift is pretty wild to me.
We have fun.
Sure.
So I want to say that this is a little bit born out of emotional necessity. One of the things that I kind of have been noticing a lot more and more lately is that I'm bothered less by things that I felt like used to annoy me and more just really curious. And I'm super duper curious about the inspiration for the endless parade of re-releases that have been coming down the pipeline. But one of the things that like I'm starting to see the puzzle come together. So, okay. Those who don't know, Tori Amos is a lady. She's a very cool lady. There's a bunch of records up here of her. And a couple of years ago, she dropped this album, and it was a fun album. It was real good. But one of the things that this album had on it, should I name the album? Is that what you're fingering?
Well, no, I feel like your setup is not quite as clear as it needs to be.
Well,
okay. Let's get Tori Amos is a lady. That's accurate. That's true. Nailed
I
it.
said that part. Okay, great.
Crushed it. Tori Amos is somebody that it just so in particular happens that Nico and I, having not known each other until 3 years ago, both loved immensely. Tori Amos has been an artist for you young kids out there, because a lot of you found us through comics and are Gen Z and don't know these things. Tori Amos had put out her first album in 92 as a solo artist. We're not going to get into the deep lore here. But so 92, she's been around for a hot minute. I have loved her since 92. I started seeing her on tour in 98. Nico was a couple years later.
Well, because Grandpa was the head of the rest of us.
There you go. Getting that AARP membership any day now. So she is an artist who we both love. She is very much associated with the girl at the piano genre that people like Fiona Apple have also, taken, been received that label. You might famously know her from the picture of her, PJ Harvey, and Bjork from Q Magazine in, I want to say, 95?
And wondered who those two ladies next to Bjork are.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
That's exactly what it is.
Every time it gets brought to me, it's look at Bjork and who are those other two?
Yep.
Anyway, we love her a lot. She has consistently released albums every no more than 4 years. Since 1992, Nico and I own them all. We see her on tour every time she tours. We saw her on her last tour together. This is a person whose career we follow, and I think for both of us is sort of like like all comic sales are measured based on the sales of Batman. And for Nico's and my understanding of the music industry, it sort of is all based on where Tori Amos is at, and then that's where we situate, and everything else we figure out from there.
That is mathematically accurate for me.
So
there's
that's,
a
I want to
cosmology.
say that's the setup, dear audience, for what happened over the last 2 weeks, and then we got an update today.
I was gonna bring up the fucking update because
that was the inspiration for this particular topic and why we decided to get on. So, couple weeks ago,
out of nowhere, in the many music stores that grace the interwebs, or as they're better now known, streaming catalogs that grace the interwebs, came out a Tori Amos EP that featured nothing but like songs from the last 5 years, and the grand sum total of what they had in common was nothing. Like two are from one record, but
a bunch were B-sides, but they weren't all B-sides. Like, the lead single was a really random B-side that a lot of people didn't even know when they knew the B-sides from this album. But then a couple other songs are album tracks from a completely different album. It was just a random EP of just this group of songs.
And so it's an EP called the White Telephone to God EP, and it features White Telephone to God and Dixie, which I still think the title of that song is iffy.
So hold on.
Oh.
2 weeks ago,
Dixie. It's just Dixie.
2 weeks ago, it was
Dixie EP.
It was the Dixie EP, but it still had White Telephone to God. It had all of the B-sides from this from this 2015 album, Unrepentant Geraldines. And then it had a couple other tracks from her following album from 2017.
Including a song that I love, Promise, the Tori Amos Mariah Carey song that nobody ever gives enough credit because she and her daughter Tosh get on it and they just wail on some oh kind of shit, and it is amazing.
It is very pop R&B. And then it has a couple tracks from the album that she released after that, Native Invader. But they're not all they're album tracks, they're not B-sides as well. So it's just this random group of songs. That's 2 weeks ago. Today is when we get the White Telephone to God EP, which is like more than half of the tracks that were on the Dixie EP that came out 2 weeks ago. But then just a couple of other random songs. And this just shows up, for me, it shows up on Spotify. And I immediately brought it to Nico, but it shows up on Spotify, and then like 3 hours later, I get an email from, the Tori Amos mailing list being like, hey, we put out a new EP, buy the record.
So, okay, I have them up. I have both of them up. The Dixie EP contains Dixie, Bang, Promise, Reindeer King, and Ocean to Ocean.
Okay, so it's just Dixie. That's the only B-side. The rest of it is all album A-sides from two different albums.
Yeah, and so then now we get this second one, the White Telephone to God EP, and what they're saying is that these are both in support of the ugliest vinyl re-release of all time. I wish I could is it worth it? It might be worth it, you guys. It's been a long enough week.
I got it.
It might be worth it. We got some Tori records up on the wall, right? We got some Tori.
What are they exactly? Is it just a re-release? Is it re-recording? How does this work? That's always part of my question about these things. Is it just a pre-mixtape?
Well, every now and then you get a Taylor's versions, or even Tori kind of started this whole thing a number of years ago when she first started piloting this whole let me redo my music thing. Let me get out there. She started re-recording her songs for a couple of records ago, Tales of a Librarian, and then she re-recorded them yet again for Gold Dust. But she's also never been a stranger to re-recording songs. Her discography is beautifully littered with re-recordings. But the point I was making is they re-released this album, Unrepentant Geraldines, and instead of being these beautiful solid color LPs, this one is the splatter thing.
So this is not for Nico. The splatter thing seems to have taken off with chronically online people because you can watch multiple videos of record factories in which these guys just grab a honk this it's like it looks like a bucket of nerds, and they just grab a bunch of plastic from it, slap it in with the rest of the material that you press a vinyl with, and every time it's going to give you a unique vinyl, because it is just a random grab from this nerds bucket of plastic that are the color splashes for your vinyl. I'm ambivalent. I am the in-betweener on this one. I get that you hate it. I understand why. I actually think the Tori one is a particularly not my aesthetic group of colors, and also not the album's color palette group of colors, which I think maybe is one of the more disappointing parts. But I have found that, yeah, this is it. It's like you can see the color palette right next to it. It's like kind of close, but like that red that you see in the word sleep that's right behind Tori, and that green and even that teal are not the reds or greens that are on this LP. And I don't know that it would look drastically better if it had those, but at least it would be consistently kind of on theme and on brand. But yeah, I started noticing that my TikTok feed was showing me, like, I want to say like 4 or 5 years ago, a lot of these videos of people being like, come check out our record factory. This is how we make unique vinyls, and everyone is unique. The one that you order will be specially for you. And then I just started seeing every artist wanted to do a splash vinyl like this. I think I've got one from Coheed and Cambria.
But I'm so glad you said TikTok, because I have to bring this up immediately. Has everybody heard that Kesha's re-recording TikTok?
No.
I like the song.
That's interesting.
She's re-recording TikTok because she's going to change the lyrics to "Wake up in the morning, oh yeah, fuck P Diddy." I'm dying to know what the legalities are there, because she can't own that song at all.
Yeah.
I gotta be honest. I don't know if she's just gonna change it live when she performs it, but then she has the live
rights. Which she has started doing.
You know, one of the things that, like, okay, I'm so glad we brought this up, because I think Kesha and Tori are two really great artists to juxt here. Tori Amos, famously like owns her own tapes. You know, she's at her first Grammys and she meets Peter Gabriel, Salisbury Hill, best song in the universe. Mm-hmm. And he says, my only advice for you is build your own studio, own your own masters, never let anybody be the person that they have to go through to get them, make that you. So when you hate a song, you lose the masters. And that is what she did. She built a studio in Cornwall, England. That can't be its name. And so she builds a studio, and there's also a studio in Florida.
But she goes through it. Yes, at the Harry Potter, she is under the dragon. She just recorded. She did a 6-album contract. That's the other thing. Like she did not own the masters for her most popular albums, because she was a young person that
she had them, because by the 3rd album, she did record in her own studio and would purposefully lose them in her family's house.
Right. But she had a traditional record contract wherein one would not own one's masters, which the other thing she did, very pioneering. This is turned from like people releasing EPs to just us doing more Tori Amos history, which is exactly what I wanted to happen. So great. She did 5 albums and then wanted to run out the contract, which is something that a lot of people now do, because these contracts, I mean, this is 92 and it's horrible then. Well, so
but also the Atlantic exodus at that time, like Poe.
But record contracts are horrible. There is virtually no chance that the artist will benefit in a material way from them in any way except gaining popularity in hopes that there is a route out of having to do record contracts in the future. Tori does 6 albums, and for the 6th one, she does a covers album. That way she will not have to give Atlantic new music, because she does not want, she knows what she needs to do now. She knows what her setup is, and she doesn't want to give them anything that they have any ownership of, and she does not. So brilliantly, she does a covers album, and I think did a really great job of lying to the world and just being like, I had to do this. It was such a concept that I needed to do.
Well, and she also used the brilliance of like, it is too much to mount an album while giving birth.
I mean, this is for my daughter,
and
all of which were, it's true. Like it's,
and I just want to add to your point here, because like classically, artists, when this was the case, used to purposely tank records. I'm not fucking kidding. There's an album by Van Morrison called like You Want a Biscuit. And it's just Van Morrison getting really drunk, like Van Morrison probably always does, and just sort of has liver failure in the recording booth going, I want a biscuit, just because it was anything to give them albums and then say there's literally nothing else in the tank. That's all there is.
Yeah, a lot of people do that as well. The really smart thing was to do something that she could tour on and would be great,
and make
but she
bank.
didn't have to, and make money, but she didn't have to give them anything, creatively the way you do when you write it all yourself. So anyway, that's just, the master's question is a very interesting one.
But that brings us back to exactly the original conversation in the best way, because so then Tori releases her next record, which is, I think, like, I'm just not willing to like give everybody a Sonic Masterpiece, and I'm very unwilling to give most people 2 Sonic Master Pie. But I think Scarlet's Walk is a real Master Pie, and I think all of its subsequent oeuvre, it matches the same thing. And like, so she releases an EP with that like, this was the best and darkest moments of my teen life, right? Because like, I don't think, I'm sorry, but like my 30s are better than my 20s are better than my teens. It's just like, I like things more now, or maybe I just hate less. Best map of all time. And so she releases this EP, and this EP defined my soul. I mean, this album defined my soul. Like, I fell in love to Scarlet's Walk with my first real boyfriend. And so she has this EP, and it's all of these incredible tracks. And the EP is only released with this live album, and a couple of the cool bonus tracks are missing. Anyway, she goes ahead and she re-releases that album, that EP, like last year online. And it was one of those things. It was last year, right?
Yeah, it was last summer.
When she dropped Scarlet's Hidden Treasure.
Scarlet, she did the vinyl re-release last year, which the timing was weird for that because, well, no, I guess it was 2003. Mm-hmm. And so that was 20 years, and then this is 10.
Right.
But this is 2015, so it's just a little early.
Well, but I love that she threw in the 3 bonus tracks to make it like, it's just that thing that's a little bit better.
Yeah, no, I feel you. Last year for the 20th anniversary of Scarlet's Walk, she gave us, and this is pure, Nico was the happiest he could possibly have been because it was just a red vinyl.
It was just a scarlet vinyl. It was just a scarlet vinyl.
Just a red vinyl. That's all he needed. He just red is perfect.
And it's got the dream. So this album is all about exploring the Native American heritage that I just want to be clear with the way I say this. She gets to claim, because there's two things at play here. She is of Native descent, and you can't take that from her, white man. And number 2, the Native people's stance on this topic is if you identify with Native blood, you are of Native blood. And so I truly have no qualm, because she doesn't run around, being obnoxious. This album is a lot about exploring her Native American roots across America, and so dream catchers figure very majorly into the iconography. And in the center of that scarlet red vinyl is the dream catcher that hung above my bed because I got my dream catcher in my Scarlet Special Edition. And it's just so cool that it's exactly what you're saying. It was perfect.
Yeah,
I'm a minimalist aesthetically.
It was custom for you, so perfect. Last year we get this 20-year red plus, and it's just, in this case, it's very funny because like the releases are all totally different. In this case, she just gave us the album on 2 vinyl. There you go, Kevo, great find,
dude. This guy.
Truly. So it was just this on two discs. We got the album as we know and love it, and that was fantastic. But then as part of the release cycle, separately online in a more collected edition, she released this EP that is essentially all the B-sides from the album that, if you were a fan, you had heard 20 years ago and you had access to, and that was great. But they weren't necessarily as available to like newcomers who came after 2003 to Tori's music. So it was pretty cool for her to re-release it. I think they got remastered as well. But it was a super remaster.
I think the track that shows it the best is Mountain was put on this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Mountain shows it the best because Mountain had only been available on Scarlet's Web, which was the no, we got to say it. We got to explain it. You had to put the CD in your fucking computer and then launch a website from the CD to listen to live tracks from the night before's tour stop by finding them on the map. And then we were supposed to find a bunch of hidden tracks, and all they ever put up was one song and one remix. And they literally were like, "We're sorry, guys. This was tough."
Yeah, that's we could do a whole other episode on how stupid web development was before 2007, but we're gonna save you from that one for now. It'll definitely come up later.
It's going to come up in a few minutes when I bring up the fact that it's things like you just said that a bunch of Tory fans don't have access to this music. It's because the best Tory receptacles of all time are gone. Yeah. It's because all of the best Tory websites are gone. Yeah. And it's because the web changed.
Yes, very much so. But so anyway, that last year we do this awesome re-release and anniversary cycle for this 20-year-old album, Scarlet's Walk. This year, we are doing a re-release anniversary cycle for Unrepentant Geraldines, this 10-year-old album. And, you know, we're psyched about it. We're psyched to get the vinyl and everything. But we get the announcement that this is happening from this weird aforementioned Dixie EP that just kind of came out of nowhere. We're all a little bit surprised only because... I think we all just kind of maybe thought you didn't say Dixie. And
it's, I just want to be clear. It's literally one of her best pieces of music in 30 years.
It's beautiful. And the whole point, this is not about Dixie or Dixieland being a great thing. No. The whole thing is a memory of being a child at a time when nobody knew you don't say Dixie. And she's with her mother. And the one thing we're going to say about Tori is her mother, who passed years ago, but is a very precious kind of sacred thing. So we maybe even have some leeway for her there. But this song is just this beautiful moment of her remembering literally whistling Dixie down the lane with her mom.
But it really could just be like any shopping center. She's the richest girl in Dixieland is one of the things that she's saying. It's any moment that you share in that perfect memory.
Yeah. And it's not, you know, remembering the South as it ought to have been or anything like that. It is, you know, there's no value to the word Dixie other than the fact that she remembers having said it. And this is like, you know,
well, just like White Telephone to God has no reference to what White Telephone to God actually means.
Yes.
Which is
I feel like
a hangover and throwing up.
Yeah.
If anything, this is one of those things that you can point to where you really see the reaches of how long it takes for us to escape from certain histories. Like, that's just a part of the culture, and it's taken so long to pull all of those weeds out that, Tori Amos's childhood was still rife with them. All of our childhoods were still rife with so many of them, and that's all it's really, drawing attention to. And I think that's, important.
And, she is right on that cusp of baby boomer, Gen X, and it's just, we all pick and choose our battles. This is one where I maybe would have been like, I don't know, is there any way we can re-record? Like, is there, if I'm anywhere in the orbit, I'm just like, can we do anything here? Only because it, as Nico pointed out, it is such a beautiful song. Tori has this tradition of performing music of like classic. She does like American songbook songs every now and then. She did Murder, She Said, and You Belong to Me.
And apologizes for that cover of Strange Fruit. Just get it out there. She apologizes for that cover of Strange Fruit.
The cover of Strange Fruit was 94. We can't even go there right now.
Nope.
But so, she did she did those for the Mona Lisa Smile soundtrack years ago. Recently, she did A Nightingale Sang in Berkeley Square for Good Omens. But she does the classics. And it's kind of, I've always wanted her to do a American Songbook album, but Dixie is her, it sounds like her writing a song that sounds like a song from the American Songbook, or that is at least inspired by it. And And, you know, it's really beautiful and special, I think, for that. So the whole long thing being like, you know, she releases this EP that headlines this song. And the only reason I'm like even a little bit iffy about it is because I never want anybody who could come to this amazing fandom and to this amazing artist who I think is the kind of person that can hear this feedback and do stuff with it. I would never want anybody to be put off from that fandom because this is one of the first things they experience, you know, and Dixie being something that if for you personally is way too charged a phrase such that, you know, that would make me sad that you would miss out, but I would understand why you would choose to not engage with an artist who did that. And, you know, I'm curious because it is so easy to pop on Spotify and group a bunch of tracks and then, you know, call it an EP. I'm curious if doing the White Telephone to God EP was in part just to kind of keep the momentum of this going, with a bunch of different tracks that don't have the same problem, rather than leave up the only this other EP that, you know, that does have that problem.
It makes me wonder if there's going to be a Forest of Glass EP.
Yep. Is that not on the White Telephone to God one?
Well, I mean, even if it is, Dixie and White Telephone to God getting these two EPs, even if she I know it's stupid, but even if she reuses the song, one of the big things that they're pushing with this vinyl re-release is that this is the first time those three songs were ever published outside of digitally and you know, loosely collected. So I don't know. And it even kind of brings up part of what I want to talk about in addition to this. Like, you know, you said that like you wanted this to be like a really free form thing a minute ago. And like, that's something that I really do also want, because part of like the nature of what we're talking about is these EPs and what they signify. With somebody like Tori, this is just, she knows how to mine the fuck out of us. And what?
It's not on Forest of Glass is not on here. It's White Telephone to God, Dixie. So that's what it was. Dixie's on both of them.
Yeah.
Yes. And then it's Trouble's Lament, which is the first track off of, and it was the first single off of Unrepentant Geraldines. But then it's Cloud Riders and Upside Down 2. Cloud Riders.
Fucking dumb song ever. Cloud Riders is perfect. Upside Down.
Cloud Riders is great. Cloud Riders is on a different album. Cloud Riders is from Native Invader, which comes out.
It's a reference to another song because Tori has so much mythology in her song. The Cloud Riders are actually referenced in Invisible Boy.
And one other track before that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's references on references, and a lot of them are mythological. So it's this track that is not on the album that these EPs are promoting, and then another track, which is a B-side from this album that is not the album that any of these songs are, that this EP is promoting. So just very odd. She still has one B-side from Unrepentant Geraldines that has not been released in EP format yet, which, as Nico pointed out, very well might be. We might be doing one more of these.
Well, it's like when Jason Mraz did We Dance, We Sing, We Steal Things, and then released 3 EPs called We Dance, We Sing, and We Steal Things, and they each featured a song from the record, but then 3 live versions of songs from his previous records.
Or like when Robin did Body Talk Part 1 and Part 2. And
nothing will ever be that cool again. Why would you bring it up? Like, literally, music has been ruined for me since nobody... Because Body Talk as a complete project is not that good. Like, there are so many dumb filler songs in that. It's unbelievable. But you know what every single one of them is? Brave, intelligent, influential on the next 20 years of music. And like, you know, I recently said on an episode of one of our shows that you put Scott Snyder on a book to make sales. You put Grant Morrison on a book to make big idea people. And I feel like Robin did something with Body Talk that's what we keep seeing Carly Rae Jepsen reimagine with the side B record, where it's whatever she thought, because like what is it, it's Dedicated side B has the multiple versions of songs that neither one of them made the record. So like, you know, if it weren't for Robin and Body Talk, we'd have none of this, I think, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, I don't quite know what she was going for with said project. Because, we do get Hang With Me on part 2, which I think is one of the bigger singles off of it. But that is the most important piece of music video pop art since Madonna turned into Shadows. That jukebox coat means everything to me. Interesting. I love that. That makes me very happy. I would not have pinned that as the one.
It is actually my favorite. I'm making emotional. It's that and the Jeffrey Mack bubble suits that are like literally the one that Candy wore.
I love those.
Those are my literal 2 favorite pieces of pop fashion ever. That jukebox coat literally moves me to tears because she becomes the music. She becomes able to express all of the things you want, and she's wrapped in color. She's wrapped in I say it all the time, but my favorite lyric of all time is from Dim All the Lights by Donna Summer, which is why when they danced to it on Drag Race this year, I sobbed. When she says, turn on the old Victrola, it literally is her saying, experience the thing that makes music powerful to me. And when Robin wears that, oh my God, it's literally my favorite moment in music videos.
But yeah, I mean, we get one huge hit off of, because it's Call Your Girlfriend off of Body Talk it's Dancing on My Own on Body Talk Part 1. Then it's Hang With Me on Body Talk Part 2. And then when the full Body Talk comes out, that's where we have Call Your Girlfriend. And of course, there's other, like Indestructible.
When's Dancing on My Own? Is that album exclusive? No, there's an acoustic version on 1 or something.
No. I said Dancing on My Own is Part 1. Dancing on My Own is Part 1. Hang With Me is Part 2. Call Your Girlfriend is the just full Body Talk album. But that's actually, I'm sort of surprised she has never done a re-release. Because I imagine there's so much content material from having recorded that. But that was another really interesting kind of EP to LP project.
Well, and it's one of the things that I love the most about talking about functional art, the way art evolves. When I think about my favorite things of all time are digestible, smaller versions of big things, and then unbelievably big things. I either want to have the cut down perfect version of a 4-hour opera, or I want the 12-hour unedited original cut. And I don't really seem to have a lot of options between. I either want something as big and sprawling as Tori Amos' Scarlet Walk, or I want something really intimate and tight and careful like Selma Songs by Bjork, where it is a very carefully crafted perspective. And it's not even the whole amount of music. It is a slice of it. And I feel like, Kevo, one of the things that makes me think of, especially for you, is the fact that I don't believe any Doctor Who series, and please correct me, has ever had every piece of original music released. I feel like it's always been pieces, because I know so many episodes have had custom scores.
In that regard, probably yes, to a degree at the very least. Series 10 still has no release. And it's been
really
7 years, almost 8 years. Bill's season has no soundtrack release. Marigold's final before coming back. And there are tracks and variations, like you remember from when we were young, that there were variations on the Martha theme that weren't formally released. And you can find stuff like that on YouTube. And that's something, hey Mark, that I really love about the era that we live in, where you can find so many of those things on YouTube. When you were talking about the dance and sing and steal things, and just that concept, something that I was going to make a joke about in terms of art that was released that has these multiple different versions and iterations. I'm vamping until I can get my thing on the right screen. But for me, that was the Sebastian from the Little Mermaid music albums. I had this because I was this giant Little Mermaid faggot when I was a child. I had this album that was different songs that were. There was this framing device of Ariel wanted. And yeah, it had that framing device of Ariel just wanted a party, and so Sebastian was throwing her a party, and so that was just the plot. In finding these images, by the way, the thing that I am most amused by is I found this one image of the back of the CD, and for some reason halfway through they completely reformatted how they started saying the song titles. It goes from mixed case to all caps. God bless the 1990s.
Watching the mid 2010s to the early 2020s happen.
I mean, and just the fact that it starts with Arise and ends on Jamaica, hello!
But it feels like a hello.
It's farewell, Jesus, yeah.
But this is even to say, like, I've been a tiny music faggot, like, for the like TV and all those scores and stuff since I was a kid. So yeah, that sort of was my version of following albums and keeping track of things. And like, they didn't release a ton of Buffy score for so long.
They definitely still have not released all of the Buffy score.
No.
And
I was tracking that down when we were in high school.
Somebody should show Joss Whedon some feet and distract him, and then we can steal it out from under his stupid feet eyes.
I think probably you just go right to Christoph Waltz and grab
Christoph
Beck.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Because he won for Frozen. He won the Oscar for Frozen.
Now he's too rich. He's got a moat, so we can't do it. Okay.
Exactly.
Never mind. We're screwed. All right. So that's... But thank you for bringing up Buffy, because I do have to talk about the fact that because I was listening to this other band, Haylaker, Hailaker. Everybody listen to them; they're amazing. Paul Mescal put them on like a Spotify playlist. That's not how I found out about them. I'm cool. I find stuff on my own. I need Paul Mescal to help me out. But I'm just saying, like, cool people like them. Anyway, one of the singers sounds a lot like the lead singer of K's Choice. An incredible rock band from the late 90s, early 2000s. But I bring this up only because they have the best song on the Buffy guest soundtrack of, like, when people come in, not the score, but the soundtrack of artists that come and play on Buffy the Vampire Slayer. They have the best song, and it features in an on-screen performance at the Bronze, Virgin State of Mind. You look like you are going to suggest another song is better, and whatever. Yeah, is that not?
No, I was going to say I have a hard time thinking about Buffy and music and live performances without going to it's Chibo Matto.
Yep, that's second.
Which that's probably my number. That's my number one
second.
Because it's so unbelievable that Chibo Matto was on TV.
I agree, and it's Sugar Water, which is such a sexy
perfect
banger.
Fucking song.
Yes,
it is like Mandalays and Sensibles for American.
For a while.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, if you like that song, you need to go check out Insensible by Mandalay. It is a perfect piece of music. But the thing I want to really bring up is that I love Michelle Branch, and everybody who thinks that Michelle Branch is
You're the worst.
Hold on. Everybody who thinks that Michelle Branch is a nobody and just some dumb teen girl from 100 billion years ago, please listen to Hotel Paper and experience how she helped women like Taylor Swift have the opportunity to make those sorts of albums. I don't think that Taylor Swift is derivative. I'm not assassinating Taylor Swift by any means. But Michelle Branch did some really beautiful work on Hotel Paper, crafting a record featuring collaborations from people like Dave Navarro and Sheryl Crow. Really, truly groundbreaking. And then the Trent Reznor remix of Are You Happy Now? Like, genius. But like, Goodbye to You is a terrible piece of music. It is a shitty fucking song. And it is a piece of music that she managed to make worse every fucking time she re-recorded it, and she re-recorded it twice. So there are 3 versions of Goodbye to You, and there are 3 versions of it where each one is worse than the last. I hate that song on a lot of levels because it is literally, I make jokes about asshole music. I don't think it's a bad song. I hate it. There's a difference. And it's probably a great song, but there is something about the way it hits my ear that makes my brains explode. And she did it on like 9 TV shows that year.
Well, that's the thing. That's why that song exists.
And it is, the Buffy performance is my least favorite.
Yeah, that's the thing. So that it exists to be a radio song and to be on any WB show. The one that it absolutely cannot possibly under any circumstances work for is Buffy, especially because it's at the time where Buffy is in like a dark, depressive episode where things are so bad that literally hell, like death and hell, are a better option than being alive. So Michelle Branch is just not, like, Michelle Branch just singing a ballad about like, hey, we broke up is not where we're supposed to be. Cyborg, your wedding song was Christoph Beck, Close Your Eyes. It was on my list. That score is absolutely incredible. I think the 2, when somebody says a love theme, the 2 that always immediately spring to mind are that, which is original and I love it, and then Shonda's use of The Light by the album Leaf for Olivia Pope and the President on Scandal, which is really stupid, but it just is they picked the song right and they used it a lot, so I can't ever not think about it. By the way, my third for Buffy was going to be Biff naked at the college party.
Oh, yeah. And here's the thing. We were ourselves babies. So Nico and I were in 8th grade.
Yeah.
So obviously, when I was an 8th grade asshole, I adored that sequence and thought it was so dramatic. And, in many ways for pushing the envelope on what they were doing on something like the WB, it was. But yeah, it's also an asshole moment. It's also a hyper dramatic. I feel like they so much struggled, especially like in season 6, like you were saying, with figuring out how to balance the tone of such a dramatic story with, we still have the bronze, and we are at a point in television production where the bronze is well lit, and they have people like Michelle Branch play. My favorite person appearing on the show themselves, actually, is Amy E-Man.
Oh, that might actually be...
my number 2.
Playing Vampire Towns.
Yeah, it is by far my number 2.
Yeah, no, it's...
Steven Universe and Portlandia mean that Amy Mann makes some of my favorite television appearances.
Yeah, she's down to clown.
I just want to point out that you're all stupid because number 3 is Ashanti. And so...
Ashanti doesn't perform.
No, she performs.
Yes. No, she doesn't perform.
I didn't say she performs a fucking song.
I was going to say, Ashanti doesn't perform music.
She performs a ritual,
she performs
dummy.
like she's in Bring It On.
If we're talking about guest appearances, yes, absolutely. That's right at the top. What?
I just wanted to say also, part of what we are talking about is like the idea that music has been central to TV and the way we shape TV, through both score and through soundtrack. It's exactly like what Cyborg is saying. Smallville, right now for Kevo and I and TK through endless streams of messages, it's Grey's Anatomy. But you know what? It's even stuff like when we go back and we watch old reality shows and we catch what they're playing in the background, and I'm like, oh my God, Autobiography by Ashley Simpson. Right. I was 17. You know what I mean?
Well, and my thing for that is always I discovered John Mayer from Real World New Orleans.
Oh, cute.
Yeah. And then saw him.
I love when people come to things late.
I'm
sorry.
How dare you?
Already into John Mayer by 8th grade.
Yeah, I was gonna say you absolutely did not know John Mayer before me, and that's where I
This
found
was
him.
July of 2000. It's the scene where Julie is starting to like reconsider being a bitch toward homos, and they play a very acoustic version of the big one.
Well, I'm really happy to show you guys my 3 unopened and my 2 signed copies of Inside Once out later.
Yeah, no, I feel you. I'm just saying.
I was being dumb and silly. I know.
Silly. I know.
Okay.
Wait,
as long as nobody thinks, audience.
Yes.
I am not trying to claim credibility. I'm just being sassy.
I didn't discover John Mayer. Please don't hold me.
No, I did.
I don't want to be responsible for that.
It was me. I did it. God, I can't remember what I was going to before that. What were we talking about?
Sorry, it's been a Howie day, so I was just.
Oh yeah, him too. And actually,
all kinds of Ari feisty.
The first time I saw Howie Day play was opening for Guster on the Lost and Gone Forever tour. Guess who's playing this whole weekend? 3 shows in Portland, Maine. Lost and Gone Forever for the. We must be on the
20th anniversary.
Well, we're beyond it because it was
25th?
before. It can't be 25th either. It's just random. It's just in the middle. Because I want to say it came out in 2002. But anyway, that's Howie Day.
You know when you can like
for that.
Make a checklist of songs you need to hear by certain people live.
Yeah.
I've heard Dakota by Stereophonics live, so that one's checked off. But if I do not hear Guster perform Satellite before I die, I will be sad for my entire life.
It's really good. I wish I'd known that. I would have had you come up for this. They're great. They for years until college.
That's a 24.
25.
Oh wow. 25th. Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
It's the 25th anniversary of 1999 this year, so. Yeah, I know. They're doing the Queer as Folk thing later this year, and I was like, fuck.
Wow, it did come out in 99. That's so wild. And
then the next one was produced by Duncan Sheik because he loved it so much.
Yeah, what I was going to say is that up until college, they were the band that I had seen live the most, because from about 2000 until 2003, I would just go anywhere in the New England, New York area that they were.
That was me with John Mayer until like 2006.
Yeah. The problem with John Mayer was that he only really performed in the Northeast. Well, he only performed in Portland.
You mean his personality, right?
Well, there's that too. But yeah, anyway, Howie Day, he was another one that I feel like, I discovered him. Nobody knew who Howie Day was before me.
It's one of those things. I have this really clear memory, Kevo. If you can get on it, and if you don't want to, you can literally just do the no thanks. But like, there was this board game, Pokemon Masters or whatever. I had this board game. I have this really clear memory. So those of you who don't understand, I had a really complicated childhood. I was in and out of hospitals, and they put you on a lot of medication, and I had some fun with that. And so I was homeschooled for a lot of high school. But my friends were so dedicated to making sure I had my friends understood that if you're homeschooled, it can like somewhat slow down your social progress. And so my friends made it their goal in life while I was in high school, luckiest human on the planet, that they would come to the house and they would like simulate classes and they would throw little parties for me. And like all they wanted was for me to feel okay. And I discovered Howie Day and then found out he was going to open for Tori Amos and was so happy about it. And I have this unbelievable memory of me and, not to drop names, but the genius who edits Monstrous Now. The genius who edits Monstrous Now playing this game, listening to Australia on a loop. One guy who would join us for those parties is now like a super chemist at like BU. Another person that would join us for those parties has gone on to be a doctor. And here I am making this show. But when I think about Australia, that record, when I think about, oh my God, so like if you were a street teen kid, you would have the original EP. So those of you who were dumb enough to buy Australia, in stores have only ever heard Morning After live, but some of us are real cool. And we've heard a version of Morning After from the original Howie Day Live EPs, when you would have to buy from the store, and some of them didn't even have fucking names on them. We have the Morning After version. And so I burned a version of Australia that replaced the live Morning After with the real Morning After. And I once told my husband, when I first met him, that "You're so beautiful, you'll just have to do" is the most romantic thing I can ever imagine someone saying to another person. And he said to me, "That's not romantic at all. You need to get that together." Here we are.
Way to go, Kevo. Yes.
Sounds like me.
I do want to point out that my sister's screen name at one point was actually Beamiest Faced Girl.
I get it.
My
She
sister and
strikes
I,
me as the type.
my sister and I saw Howie Day 11 times supporting Australia. I
Glad she
can
didn't go try and get on the tour bus.
We saw 4 shows supporting Stop All the World Now, and then we stopped.
All the world now.
Stop all the world and now you.
That was covered by Jason Mraz, and my cover of that is based
And
on his
Bowling
cover.
Pursuit.
No one should cover that song.
Because it's perfect, right?
Yeah, it's fine like it is. We just leave that one alone.
Oh, no, there's no fine like it is. Hold on.
You go.
Are you saying that covers aren't necessary when a song is good?
No. I'm saying some songs you just don't need to worry about. You just leave that one out. We leave it alone. It's fine.
If everybody said that, we wouldn't have the perfect version of Red Red Wine, or Can't Help Falling in Love, or of
Are you?
what else?
Do you just want to talk about UB40? What's happening here?
A little bit, he does.
So
I don't want to take away from anyone the right to cover something just, because it's a good song and they like it. Something I think about a lot is and I almost said Mia Catalano, Kate Vogel cover of Hallelujah. That's just sort of not necessary. I think it mostly exists so they can use it on One Tree Hill.
That's because the version everybody's covering is a cover.
Yeah.
And it mostly just exists, I think, because Kate Vogel likes the song. And I get that, but at the same time, I also do hear the argument of what is that doing?
Well, and
because I think some people do that, and it's not that they're just doing it because they like it. They do genuinely want you to be like, good job.
Well, I want to add 2 things to that, and I want to get both of your opinions. Tasty Cake, all of the stuff you hear, every time you tune into our show, you hear a cover of me.
You hear you doing a cover.
That's the thing.
Yes, this is a cover.
I'm sorry, a cover from me.
Yes.
Yes.
Real quick, I figured out the thing I wanted to say 1,000 years ago, and it's really quick, and I have to say it. Isn't it wild? The Grey's Anatomy score is terrible.
It's very light.
It's just sound effects.
Yeah, exactly. It's just literally because people would find it odd if the show didn't have a backing musical track of some kind, but they completely changed.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Cyborg! Ah! You beat me to it. Okay.
But they completely changed the landscape of bringing in music and I shouldn't even say completely change the landscape, because there really were plenty of other shows doing it before.
Yellow Jacket could not be doing what Yellow Jacket does to use songs to tell the story if it weren't for Grey's Anatomy trying to trailblaze that 20 years earlier.
Yeah.
It makes me think of the fact that one of the most recurring and most beautiful piano themes that they use on Glee is an existing song from someone else that they've licensed and just used 150 times on Glee as the beautiful piano melody that plays when there's a romantic moment. Yeah, it's just an existing song. And so
but it's not like a pop song. It's like
it's because they're doing other things, and so it would be weird if they didn't have something that sounded like incidental music for the moments they're not using pop music.
Right, you do need a score. You do need a score of some kind.
You need something.
And it's
I just want to add, so Cyborg, that's why they're called UB40, because they all met on the line to get the UB44. So UB40 is called UB40 because the members of the band met online to get the unemployment form in the late 70s. And I don't know. I don't like a lot of cover bands, but I like Linda Ronstadt and I like UB40. I love that somebody else knows that fact. It's super.
And I think tying it into the theme of the episode in terms of covers and cover bands and music and re-releases, it sort of depends on if you're doing something to it or if you are just re-releasing it. Something to bring it back to the point that you drew me in with Doctor Who. For the, I want to say 50th anniversary, they did a soundtrack re-release that was like this 2 or 3 or 5 disc thing. And it was like a whole bunch of old score, but it was just re-releasing existing tracks. They didn't do a new orchestration. They didn't anything like that. It was just re-releasing Murray Gold tracks that already existed on albums that already exist.
It's also wild after all these years that Doctor Who almost seems to actively do bad soundtrack. Like they don't do good songs. Like there are so many good British artists that don't contribute songs to Doctor Who, and I feel like maybe the fact that Ncuti Gat was so hot and cool might, because like it would be kind of weird to see Peter Capaldi like dancing to XS by Rina Sawayama. I think that timing lines up, but no, it doesn't.
But he's a time traveler, so it does.
Yeah, Jodie could have done it. Anyway, they're so, I mean, like, I think they're terrible, but 1975, like, there's so many current British artists, Brie Runway, like, I'm just so many people that I think are so cool that, I mean, even I don't think he's cool, and clearly neither did the rest of Europe, but that Ollie doesn't.
Ollie Alexander?
Yeah, who I suspect absolutely has to be Ncuti's master. There's nobody who personifies the evil that Ncuti seeks to fix than Ollie Alexander.
I just want to point out, Captain Birdseye, I love you catching that we're all wearing baseball caps. That's really cool. Please feel free to share your baseball caps with us. And if you don't have any, please go get one and then share it. And if not, share just a picture of not shown. So
I sometimes will do hair, but I worked today and I did not have time to gussy it up. It's getting a little long, so it's very much hat time. I'm also, it's like 1,000 degrees. I'm sweating a lot. It's not good hair energy.
I just have too much hot ball daddy energy, and I try to control it because otherwise the boys just are immediately a little too into it. So
it is a problem in the house of action.
The hat keeps me looking younger. It stops the daddy powers. So I just want to thank you so much for noting how cool our haberdashers are, and celebrate anytime you want to share yourself and express yourself with hats.
I gotta give a shout out to this particular hat, which is from a British only release of X-Men hats by New Era, that I found a service where a British man went to like the lids in London and bought these hats and shipped them to me. I could not have this Jean Grey hat.
No, it's super fucking fab.
Beautiful.
I have a couple other. It was just such an ill-advised expenditure of money that, you know, had I but known that COVID-19 would happen a year later, I would have made so many different financial decisions in 2018 and 2019. But I sat through that whole pandemic in cool hats, so I guess we're okay.
You know, I want to say that part of what's got me thinking a lot right now is I did just buy a new car. I bought a 2025. I'm kind of like a Honda faggot because I'm a Jersey Shore gay. So
Honda homo.
We are what we are. Yeah, you know what, Cyborg? That's what I'm saying. When I don't have the hat on, I'm just a little too fucking hot. And when I put it in the flex, it's just not even fair. So I'm just trying to keep the hot in check. I don't want my computer to overheat. You don't need to hear the fan, right? So, you know, when I think about the fact that I just bought a new car, one of the things that I'm most excited about is like listening to music. And, you know, TK, you said earlier, nobody needs to cover Melt With You. And Melt With You is one of my favorite mega 80s hits. One of my other favorite mega 80s hits is Dance Hall Days by Wong Chung. And I'm saying it Wang Chung because if you say it Wang Chung, you just sound stupid.
You're a bad person.
Yeah, you sound like an idiot. So I'm going to be cultured. Thank you very much. I shop at Target and Wellmarket. And so it's beautiful. And one of the things that I always think about when I think about Wang Chung is I think about how much I love Dance Hall Days. I think Dance Hall Days is truly one of the most perfect pieces of music of all time. There was something about that walk down. Oh, when you and everyone we knew, that unbelievable progression. It literally is so hard to chromatically walk down the scale for every single note in a chord. And there is something so careful, meticulous, informed about the way that song structures. But genuinely, there is no good remaster. When I put it on in my car this morning, because believe me, when I drove to work, I put on all of my favorite songs in my new car. And there is no good version. It is gut-wrenching that there are some songs that have yet to be re-released beautifully. And it like kills me because I have 45 different cool remasters of The Chain by Fleetwood Mac. I have 10 different cool remasters or edits of Caught a Light Sneeze by Tori Amos. But I feel like there are so many cool, very heavy, thematic percussion songs. Like, I would trade 10 really cool days for 10 really bad ones to get an unbelievably well-mixed The First Taste by Fiona Apple. And I just feel like it's one of those pieces of music from her first record, which she's kind of disavowed, which she's kind of treated like it's not really part of her discography, when, ma'am, it is.
She hasn't done that. She is not a looker backer. She's not. She really is.
And that's why Rob Thomas always performs Matchbox 20 songs when he's touring solo.
No, you know, I hear you. Fiona Apple has always done exactly what she wants. You know, she's very lucky to have been in that era of artists where if
lucky?
you got lucky. What do you mean?
I think it was a little appropriative. I don't know. This is a place where you and I don't agree, and I'm really excited to get into it.
What do you mean appropriative? What?
I genuinely feel that her first record is jazz and blues.
Yeah.
And it's structured beautifully.
Yeah.
And that second record is hard rock and edge and finesse and alternative wrapped up in a feminine package. And then I think the third record, her absolute best, and I just don't have room for people that don't think Extraordinary Machine changed the universe. It's one of those things where it cracked reality. That album cracked life. And I think When the Pawn came really close. And I feel very much like what I came to realize is that Fiona Apple isn't an artist who experiences the genres she performs, but she's a Madonna. And she puts on genres like a performance. And I sometimes feel like Fiona Apple is a genius who could survive any 40 years you ask her to make music in. Because she's so careful. She's so brilliant. But I do feel like Tidal sold me a bag of lies. It's hard to even say. Tidal sold me a bag of lies that she will never, ever give me the promise of. She will never reclaim that majesty. And it was such an authoritative look at what a white person is allowed to say about jazz and blues. She wasn't appropriative of Black culture. And so instead, I feel like she was perhaps appropriative of girl and piano culture, when she is girl who was a genius songwriter with no parallel.
There's a lot there. She's only 16 at the time most of those songs were written and recorded.
Is that why they call her a sullen girl? It won't do no good to hold no seance.
They call her sullen girl for a different reason, and it's dark and sad, so we're not going to go there.
Well, it's because she's been a bad girl.
No, it's not that. But
I tell you what I feel, but you don't care. I can do this all fucking day.
You can feel free. It's your hole that you're digging for yourself right now. I don't know. Like, she to me is one of those artists who I really respect. Like, you know, we've done some Tori Amos shows together, and we both kind of look at each other the exact same way whenever she plays Cornflake Girl. And I texted you the other day just being like, what do you think would happen if she was just like, I'm absolutely not playing Cornflake Girl this tour? Like, it's just off the set. I absolutely am not playing. Like, do you actually think the people that buy tickets to the tour would say, she didn't even play Cornflake Girl, I'm never going back, and it would hurt her touring career, which is how she makes money? Or like, what's happening here? Because I don't want to hear it again. I go to multiple shows each tour, and it's just like, because I know the catalog is so huge, I don't want to hear it again. Fiona Apple has always chosen to play the songs that she feels like playing when she feels like playing them. She gets really engrossed in the era that she's in. Like I said, she doesn't really look back. I don't think she's ever said anything disparaging or disrespectful about the previous albums and the previous eras. I think she said a lot about who she was and how it's difficult to go back to that stuff.
No,
and
I completely agree with you. I was being a little too harsh about a genius. A person I said was a literal.
Yeah, no. I don't think in any way. I don't think in any way you were disrespecting her.
I was too hard though. That's not fair. She really felt the jazz and blues. I agree with you.
And but also, like, she really leaned into it. But again, she was 16. Like, I would not necessarily blame somebody for like making an album that I think is genius when they're 16 and then being like, there's a lot of stuff from when I'm 16 that I shan't be revisiting.
The number of times I screamed Keena's Girl from the Gutter at the top of my lungs, like Elphaba singing Defying Gravity. I don't want to see those very ugly videos.
Yeah, I have absolutely fronted some very ill-advised covers of some emo bands that aren't good on their own, so why would my cover be any better? You know, so anyway, I'm just not going back to it. I don't blame her for doing the same thing. And, she's one where I'm really excited for whatever the next album is going to be.
If it's dance music.
I mean, like I said, I'm excited for what it's going to be. I might not like it. I see how Fetch the Bolt Cutters is absolutely genius, but it is not an album that I sit down and I'm like, it's a chill night. I just took an edible. I'm going to listen to Fetch the Bolt Cutters.
I have not listened to it a third time.
Oh, I listened to it multiple times a year, but it's not accessible. There's no singles. There's nothing super poppy. But that's okay. Like, I mean, it's all of my favorite Radiohead albums are the same thing. I can't listen to them frequently.
Hold on. No. That's a weird. No,
What?
I am so sorry, and please tell me
this.
What? When I said no, I felt literally like Jake channeling you. I felt like I was channeling Jake talking to you. Is what I was trying to say.
Yeah, sure.
I was like blah. Yeah. I would love to know what you mean by that. This idea that, like, I don't know. I am a person who feels very much like I like to judge artists even kind of by their worsts. Look at Peak Jonah chiming in. Really appreciate it. I love to judge artists even by their worsts because, like, I think one of the things that happens is when you have a really inaccessible record, what happens is you've created a piece of music that people can't dial into. I love Native Invader, but, like, it's hard to find songs other than Bang and
there's more than that.
But like when I go to them, I am muddled with the pain of the death of her mother.
Sure.
And I can't get through the heaviness of the record.
Sure.
And there's something about when, like, I put on the Velvet Rope. If I don't just put on the singles, I'm sobbing. And I can't get to, I have the need to feel real special and just keep crying. And, like, there is something about an inaccessible record being brilliant and being Grammy material, an inaccessible movie being Oscar bait, a TV show that's literally hard to stomach, like The Comeback at times, being Emmy award winning, or musicals about, the dissolution of a marriage after the death of a baby. I'm Looking at You, next to Normal, my favorite musical. And I'm like, what is it about super inaccessible art that pulls us back in?
So what was your ba there? Because this is exactly what I was saying about Fetch the Bolt Cutters.
Fuck inaccessible albums, because
but you just listed a bunch of them that you love, like Velvet Rope.
Yeah, but fuck it, because like what happens is when somebody makes this proclamation that I'm making my genius record,
sure,
I'm releasing my genius album.
Sure, I do not think that's what anybody who released the albums that you just listed said.
No.
Them.
When I'm gonna beg to differ, because
Janet might be the only one I don't know well enough to argue with you about, but I do remember that
Mariah Carey in 2014 refers to Butterfly as her Nessun Dorma that she recognized recording as such at the time.
And she's right.
Yes.
When did she say that?
But also, how insane that album is so accessible and is so good.
But then I want to talk about that idea.
When did she say that?
2014.
Okay, yeah.
About an album from 26.
She said that
about an album from 1996.
Yeah, okay. She said that reflecting on it. Okay.
Look, she was asked how she feels about how I Am Mimi, the Eternal Chanteuse, would last against her other records, and she was like, well, you can't expect everything to be a Butterfly. Butterfly is my Nessun Dorma. There isn't a single bad note there, basically. Which, by the way, Prince hated her cover of The Beautiful Ones, which I think is her best vocal cover ever. Yes, I understand that Trey Lorenz on I'll Be There is without parallel, but that cover featuring Cisco and Dule Hill doing Prince is just, there is very little that comes close.
Well, Kevo, I have a question though, because I hear what you're saying about artists talking like that, but I think about where a lot of my problem with this season of Doctor Who was Russell T Davies talking about it like it was the most brilliant thing you're ever going to see in your life. Every episode is the best episode, and like if he'd just calmed down a little bit, it would have been a little bit easier to digest a season that was really more like a B, and a great B, but that's okay. Is it part of the artist's responsibility to overhype their work? And is that maybe too much sometimes? What's the face?
I want to say that Stephen Moffat is a Scott Snyder and that RTD is a Grant Morrison. Okay. Grant Morrison created
Wait, sorry, who's Scott Snyder?
Stephen Moffat.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Because Grant Morrison created an A+ idea in his Batman that read like a D. Yeah. But RTD created a B that is going to influence Doctor Who creators for 100 years. And obviously not, but it's a time travel show, so I get to be hyperbolic.
This is the other thing I'll say. Russell T Davies would have been much better served talking about it like it was a party and that he was crushing making something really fun. Like I don't know. I talked a lot on our show about like this is the first hot Doctor and like what does it do for the show to finally have a sexy Doctor, and like I understand that sort of sexualizes and takes away from Ncuti as an artist. I like to think that we haven't talked about it on the show, but if we were to talk about sex education, that would be an opportunity to not do the same thing because it's a different kind of performance and the context is really different.
Well, and I mean, didn't they purposely keep him in a younger attitude? Like he was teenage there?
Well, he is. They are teenagers, but they're sexually active. He is still himself. I mean, like the time difference between filming Doctor Who and the last season. So he's a mature adult.
Overlap, yeah.
He has.
I only meant that they were purposely toning him. In different elements.
Yes, exactly. And I think it's almost one of those things where it's like he plays such a kind of silly, innocent, unsure about sex boy that it's an opportunity to be like, look at this actor who is clearly gorgeous and like on his own could go be very sexy wherever he wants. being able to play somebody who does not have that swagger because he does not know the world. He's too young and doesn't know the world yet.
And Shooty, I'll sign up for your in OnlyFans.
There you go. Anyway, my point being, like, this season was so fun and had such a grab bag of tricks, and you don't talk about a party like it's high art, but
or the Met Gala. It's not every party is the Met Gala.
Right.
You did not attend our wedding with our 4 different alcohol themed cupcakes.
That's Met Gala, much better example. Your wedding we'll talk about soon. Yeah, not everything is the Met Gala. Not everything has a theme that is supposed to be cultural commentary. Some parties are just in a fucking, warehouse, and they're grimy and they're dirty, but they're fun as hell. And when you talk about what you have, like, it is what it is, you can kind of hype properly. You're right. Artistically, this is a B season. Plot-wise, this was a B season. But, Shooty on his own, A+. His chemistry with Millie Gibson, last name right? Okay.
Yeah.
A+. Some of the themes for the episode and the guest appearances, like, no matter how dark and weird, but then also like ham-fisted and stupid the social media one is, it's such a bubblegum pop turned fucking crazy episode that
it's the same thing they do with Stephen Moffat's episodes too.
Yeah. Even though that is not an A+ social commentary episode, I was not blown away by the genius of that episode. It was fun as hell. I had a blast with it. Like, I loved the aesthetic of it. And at the very end, when Shooty pulls out some acting ass chops, even though the message is really heavy handed, experiencing prejudice will always be a universal thing. And if you can act it as though that part is real, the fact that the setup is ham-fisted doesn't matter. So, like, that's where, and when we take it all the way back to artists, I think a lot of people, I mean, like, if Mariah Carey is comparing Butterfly to Nessun Dorma, I think you have gone on the wrong path, but it is her best album, and it is my favorite, and I could never stop talking about how much I love it.
In the phrase "my Nessun Dorma," she's leaning very heavily on the word "my."
Yeah, yes, precisely. That is where the power really comes from.
She put in the "my" and "me," you know what I mean?
But yeah, that's my favorite record, and if we want to talk about it as like one of the R&B records that shaped the late 90s, hell yes. If we want to talk about how many bangers are on it, aesthetics that are still copied, the last time any of us really heard from Mace, there's a lot there.
I want to... Okay, hold on. If we're going to talk about the record that literally turned me into a man.
No,
like...
I don't want to talk about the record that turned you into a man. I was
hold
just pointing
on!
out that example.
No, because it fits the theme! No, for real. I can remember where I was when MTV told me that in 3 days they would be premiering the video for Honey.
Yeah.
And I can remember where I was. I was at my cousin Jenny's house. My parents were getting new carpet installed, and they informed us that they would have to unplug everything. And they were like, do you really need to watch this music video? All right, go to your cousin's house. And I went to my cousin Jenny's house, and I watched the Honey video premiere all day long. It was not 10 a.m. at all, you liars. It was all fucking day long. And so what I do want to say is that, like, Mariah Carey and her love of re-releasing music has actually led to her most recent #1. Now, her last album was sort of overlooked because it was silly. It was a very silly 10-song record about very real, honest things, about feeling like your dad picked his new family in the 8th grade, about feeling like you were always too ugly to be white and too white to be black. And I am not here to judge her experience, but I am shocked. Now, first of all, Portrait is the best song on Caution by a mile. But the fact that she took, this song, Portrait, which is an over-the-top, almost Candor and Ebb style musical ballad. It feels very much like a song that would have been intended for theatrical performance. It was released in 2018. She released a remix of it in 2024 and gave her first ever dance hit, #1. And what do we think that means? You know, this actually, and the reason it relates to Butterfly is, if you're asking me, I think that Portrait is a new take on Close My Eyes, which is the centerpiece of Butterfly's success. Close My Eyes is the best 2-chord song of all time. It's actually not just 2 chords, but it is FG for the majority of the song. But Portrait is an expounded identity of that same sort of extrapolation of her childhood into music. But instead of being 2 chords for the majority of the song, it is over the top extreme, where it actually does sort of move into a remix, kind of like a house jam. How do you guys feel about somebody like Mariah Carey, a trillion years into her career, because she is 1 zillion years old?
And by that, you mean like 52.
She's like 60. Shut up. No, I'm not kidding. No, she's really 52. But like ish. And no, how do you guys feel about somebody like Mariah
55.
Carey? Oh, is it really?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I was joking when I said shut up, but 55? No, she's old. How do you guys feel?
I mean, like, if we're going to do that, we're going to get into, like, Cher still making dance tracks.
Bjork? And she's one of the most inventive artists in the universe.
Bjork, I think, is, I want to say 58.
Wow.
Yep, nailed it. God, I'm good. Sorry, I'm so good at knowing how old Bjork is, not anything relevant or that would help a person in need.
No, my heart stopped. How old is Bjork?
Fixed it. Kylie is giving us some of her best work. You know, in the previous year we had Padam. This year I'm absolutely loving this track that she did with
Tove Lo and fucking
BB Rexa.
BB Rexa. I made Kevo listen to it an hour ago. It was at this point an hour and 44 minutes ago. So good.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. So like the idea that Mariah is in that zone of like, I don't know, it is a very fine and unclear line to walk where I feel Madonna is sort of embarrassing herself with a lot of the attempts to make youth-skewed music rather than playing around with what works and finding...
No. That was me slamming my gavel down. Yeah. I am furious about the radio music video edit of Rain that she put on that Rain EP where she just re-released a bunch of stupid fucking songs.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, for me, she is a lost cause for anything that is new and produced. She will do so. Like a few years back, she put out like she re-releases some of her old stuff, and sometimes it's okay. But otherwise, she's kind of a lost cause. Kylie, you know, I don't know. It's so different for Kylie because she's been kind of a dance queen this whole time. I don't know. I guess maybe what I'm trying to say is like I don't begrudge Mariah the chance to make like a solid single that is like a dance number. Only because I trust that she will also do, like, she'll continue to do real R&B stuff. Like, she's always going to be who she is. And I'm down for that, I think is kind of where I'm going with it.
No, and that's one of the things that I feel like, I think that when we judge artists for the fact that they re-release music, we're kind of sort of like losing the sight of the fact that like the Beach Boys doing Kokomo in 1988, 1989. Oh, well, Top Gun was 87? Cocktail? I have no idea. Tom Cruise. But when the Beach Boys did... Yeah. When the Beach Boys did Kokomo, part of the point was recapturing that identity of the past. They did it through a new song, and they hoped for the best. But when somebody like David Cassidy does it, he has 11 failed singles trying to come back. And it's because until like 2021, if you didn't have clear music video play on air, if you didn't have clear radio airplay on the radio, you were not going to manage to be successful. And one of the things that I think about is now this era of music video and this era of streaming that exists between YouTube and the Spotify generation. TK, when you pointed out that Tori Amos cover of Raining Blood was remastered, why? That's literally one of the worst songs on SLG.
Well, I disagree, but that whatever that is evil. Like, I'm desperate to know the mechanics. I think it's great of what's going on.
What are your bottom three on SLG then?
You're gonna hate me if I tell you.
If you say Happiness is a Warm Gun, I'm just
no. I think Raining Blood might still be in my bottom three, but I think SLG actually they're all bangers. I especially love that record for weird me reasons, but
I think the two B-sides that didn't get used are like literally two of the best songs on the whole record, and it crushes my heart that was never formally released.
Yeah, I sort of agree, but again, like I still think Raining Blood is good. Like I don't really think there are any bad tracks. Well, I do, but I'm not gonna tell you which ones.
What are they? Oh my god! If you say Enjoy the Silence, I'm going to literally have a hemorrhage.
No.
Okay.
I lost my train of thought on this one. Oh, thank you. So I didn't lose my train of thought, but I did want to bring up one thing. You picked the weirdest, unique example being Kokomo, because everybody hates Kokomo. Like every music reviewer hates Kokomo. Every person who is like a music historian hates Kokomo. But it was a wildly popular song, and like it did for
Super
like.
mega.
If you like, the person that immediately comes to mind, if you were Pierce Hawthorne and you loved the Beach Boys, in the 60s and 70s, you were so happy because all you wanted to do is vacation in Key West, and here comes this cerebral band that you like could drop acid to and have an experience that is now just making, post-capitalism, consumerism pop rock about like, wouldn't it be just so nice if I could dump my bitch of a wife and take you, hot 26-year-old, that's probably too old, down to Key Largo, anyway.
The oral equivalent of for 25 seconds, just pretending that you like early ASMR almost.
Yeah.
And you know what? I think, same. But I think that one of the things, sorry, TK and I were talking about which
we had to work out this Tori Amos situation on the remix.
I was so scared that he secretly hated Neil Young, and I would have to have a Crosby, Stills, and Nash sized meltdown.
No, I really do. I love basically every song on Strange Little Girls, including the two that I told you I don't like. Those are just like significantly my least favorites.
I only like Real Men Live.
I see that. I just, I don't know. It's we can't.
I genuinely hate Time as a song across the board.
I like her version better than anybody's, but I'm always very dubious of Tom Waits.
Time is my least favorite Tom Waits song. But you know what? I do want to say for a moment to kind of unite everything we've talked about.
Please.
One of my all-time favorite pieces of music ever, and I think perhaps the best use of the major to minor conversion, is I'm Not in Love by 10cc, which is, of course, the average amount of semen that a man produced in the 1970s per ejaculation. I think I'm Not in Love is literally one of the best songs ever made, and it was covered by Olive on the soundtrack to Madonna's film, The Next Best Thing, which I have this mental image. If you ask me what a movie credits song sounds like, the only song that comes to mind is Time Stood Still by Madonna, which is her absolute best song ever. I mean, when I think about the lyrics to that song, and I think about what she tried to write with William Orbit, who is the absolute top 10 greatest songwriters to develop his own genre of music when he and Beth Orton sort of single-handedly invented an entire acoustic dance music genre. I think about how I'm Not in Love is such a perfect song, and how I think by being on the Next Best Thing soundtrack made every song on it better. But that was how I actually discovered the aforementioned Mandalay. And Mandalay was my favorite band when I was a teenager, to the point where when they did 6 shows in the entire United States, I convinced my parents to take me to meet them. And because we were there at 9 a.m. when they weren't performing till 1 p.m., and their manager got there at 10 a.m. and was like, "Are you really here for the band?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "Would you like to sit at their lunch table?" And I got to sit with Nicola Hitchcock and Guy Sigsworth. And I am pretty sure everybody that knows music production heard that second name and said, one of the most prolific songwriters, producers of the 2010s? Yes. The guy who wrote Britney Spears' Every Time. Guy Sigsworth, what a one-of-a-kind genius. I said to him, "I really want to know how to play Insensible on guitar." And he said, "I'm sure you can figure it out. Hold on, what capo do you think it's in?" And he made me talk out the song with him until I figured out how to tab it out on my own. And it is so special that they were Madonna's favorite band for 6 years, because that is how I ever discovered the band that the 2 members of that band said to me, "No, you could be a musician. Don't ever give up." And that's why this is the background music. And so I'm Not in Love by 10cc and covered by Olive and covered by Tori Amos, which is connected to how much I love Madonna, led me to being a musician. And I just would like to thank Nicola Hitchcock and Guy Sigsworth for the entire rest of my life for taking so much interest in a weird 16-year-old.
It is worth noting, just for anybody who looks it up, that Guy Sigsworth is not considered the second member of Mandalay, but he is the person that produced most of their work and toured for a lot of it.
Who's the second member?
Saul Freeman.
Saul Freeman! Oh my God, I combined them into one man. I'm so sorry. Saul Freeman, you were so incredibly kind to me. What an unbelievable erasure I did. Please check out Empathy and Instinct, 2 amazing records. They are combined for their best tracks into the US record Solace, which is a double disc, which features some unbelievable remixes from way out west in Tiesto. So please check it out.
And Guy Sigsworth toured with them a lot.
He did.
The big thing that I was going to get to from that is Guy Sigsworth, a lot of people know because of his very famous duo that he was in, Frou Frou, which I have always maintained that Frou Frou really could not exist without Olive, without Mandalay, without a lot of these bands.
Without Cheapo Matto.
Without Cheapo Matto, for sure. And then I always have to take it back to my Portland connection, which is way back in the iMegaphone days for Imogen Heap. She did a guest spot on a local, they would hate that I'm calling them this, but they were for me, a local ska band called Rustic Overtones from Portland, Maine. The only band that almost broke out and made it from here. I think now, before Amy Allen, writer of Espresso fame, they were the most famous act out of Portland. But yeah, for their big, like, we're gonna actually try and break out debut, they had a guest feature from Imogen Heap years before Frou Frou was a thing.
Years before she tried to launch Tempo Shark and it failed. Years before she tried to launch a couple of other duets. She was very generous later in her career, but to hear that there was an early one is so cool.
Yeah. And so, you know, it's just, there's a really interesting history. I feel so privileged to have lived when I did and to have been into music when I did, because so much of what now is accessible to young people and gets picked up as like a sound for TikTok or Instagram reels will be like a Frou Frou song, and then everybody is like, what the fuck is this? And I get to be like, well, it's Frou Frou, which Guy Sigsworth's probably the most important producer of this era. Guy Sigsworth wouldn't have had this job without the Next Best Thing soundtrack, and the fact that Mandalay became popular, the fact that Olive became popular, Groove Armada, all of these.
Everybody looks the same.
Thank you.
All
of these.
Looking at each other. The film is good for the moolah.
This movie is terrible.
It's the worst movie Madonna's
It is absolutely awful. It has no right to have this soundtrack. But then that's a whole other thing, and I actually think I'm bookmarking this topic for another one of these.
Great soundtracks for terrible films?
Y'all do not know how good we had it from like 92 to 2002. Let's call it that 10-year stretch.
The Ghost soundtrack.
Cruel Intentions, Godzilla, Batman Forever. Did you say Ghost?
Go,
yes.
Go is one of the greatest soundtracks of any film that no one ever saw.
Yep, Next Best Thing. There are so many amazing soundtracks. Just because of the Tori Amos connection, Mission Impossible 2, which has one of
Carnival!
one of my favorite,
Coyote
most
Ugly.
unsung songs. Coyote Ugly, thank you. So
I
anyway,
just want to point out that Coyote Ugly is the only song I can think of that changes keys between the verse and the chorus, and then has a modulation.
Oh,
I'm bookmarking that specifically. We will discuss more when we return one day to discuss incredible soundtracks to horrible movies of the period from 1992 to 2002.
Well, that's the moment to go out on.
Yeah.
Because when you're talking about 2024, you only want to talk about soundtracks from 2020. From 2002 and earlier.
You definitely don't want to talk about soundtracks later because they're all bad. That's what I'm trying to tell you, children.
And that's the thing. I feel like we sometimes talk about how things are identified by their bigger picture, but like when TK, you mentioned the Mona Lisa Smile soundtrack earlier. Yep. Something they thought was that, oh, wow, the soundtrack could drive this. What if we use Tori Amos? She's definitely like a weird Dickens Faulkner bitch because she was on the Great Expectations soundtrack. So if we do this, it'll give you that vibe of the Pulp Fiction soundtrack. The Pulp Fiction soundtrack, which sold as many units as the DVD of Pulp Fiction for like 20 years. When you think about Tori Amos and you think about things like she was a part of things like the Great Expectations soundtrack. The Great Expectations soundtrack could be an entire episode unto itself because that was everybody's on it least popular song with the exception of Mono.
Thank God. Okay. Which again, no Frou Frou without Mono.
No, The Stranger Sang a Dream. And it was what, in fact, Imogen Heap spent all of her time listening to. We have a really unique position as people talking about this material across sort of like 3 generations. There are the people who were already 25 when Tori Amos hit. There were the people who were 10. And there were the people who weren't born yet. And we're all sort of still reacting to her. And this is sort of the same thing for Madonna, for Cher, for everybody. And for Cher, it's 6 generations. For Madonna, it's 5. For Tori Amos, it's 3. For Britney, it's 3 too. But that's because like 9-year-old girls love Britney Spears. And hit me.
I think we're getting into 4 to 5 for Tori. I just want to throw that out there because if you were a cool younger boomer in 1992, my mother liked Tori Amos before I did.
Same.
My like first distinct memory of being like bookmark this bitch was going to my mother was a fine art, a visual artist, and going to her studio and Tori was playing. Like that's anyway. So that's boomers, Gen X, millennials, Gen Z, all of whom I know like have something. But like now Gen Alpha, like they're getting old enough to be curious about who this person is.
And it's really fascinating because one of the things that I managed to get through this entire episode without saying is that Ani DeFranco and Sarah McLachlan were as defining for me as Tori Amos and Madonna. And when I think about artists who literally are irrelevant to their base, I can't think of anyone more than those two. And it's because Sarah McLachlan released two very Canadian records. If you want to know what Canada sounded like in 1989 and 1992, please go check out Touch and Solace. But genuinely speaking, 1993, 1994's Fumbling Towards Ecstasy and its partner record, The Freedom Sessions, those are two untouchable records. They are still literally flawless to this day. And I'm not saying that as a person from that time. I'm saying that like you could drop them on the radio today and some of those songs would literally still sound like what songs sound like on the radio today. She followed that up with Surfacing and then Afterglow, and every single thing after that was just sort of like easy listening and sort of like general and kind of filler. I certainly am a humongous Sarah McLachlan fan. I've seen her literally second row twice. Big fan, but kind of hollow. Now, I've never seen Ani DeFranco anywhere with seats. I don't think she can sell one of those. I'm kidding. I'm sure she can. I'm sure she just asks her husband and their plantation wedding for the money to book I'm sorry, I just think it's the dumbest thing. She was like the ultimate lesbian, and then she married a man and had a plantation wedding. Oh God, hide these things better, ma'am. But part of why I bring that up is because like Ani DeFranco's whole thing is kind of about burning the past at all times. And Sarah McLachlan's whole thing is sort of like not making music anymore. So when we talk about these contemporaries of Tori Amos, like, Fiona Apple, who I took far too many shots at for somebody who watched every episode of Platinum Hit starring Jewel, and who covers 11 Alanis Morissette songs in regularity. Sorry about it, but they're good. I just can't, and they're all from Under Rug Swept. I just can't help but acknowledge that we took a lot of generalizations in this route here, but we are eager to talk about more of this. There were no jokes that we made that were at the expense of these brilliant artists. We are looking to talk about them. I guess in that way, I am Greg Alexander, and I am saying that I mentioned Marilyn Manson, Hanson, and Hole for their sake. I wanted them to be more famous. That's why I brought them up. And you know what? We're still
what a deep cut.
Today.
I'm not letting you have the landing room to explain that.
And I guess on that thread, my want to be more famous.
I guess everyone's stopping me now.
Greg Evigan
from Sayreville, my two dads. I do want to point out, just to make a quick loop all around, Greg Alexander wrote Game of Love for Santana and Michelle Branch. I brought up Michelle Branch earlier. Let's just say that when we're talking about re-recording songs for no reason, taking Chad Kroeger and putting him on Why Don't You and I, because... Wait, which one was it? Did Chad Kroeger or did Alex Band write Why Don't You and I? Was it that Chad Kroeger wrote it and they felt it was too young, so they put Alex Band from The Calling on it? Or was that they felt that it was too old and they put Chad Kroeger on Alex Band's song?
It was written by Chad Kroeger.
You know what? I hate that I like Chad Kroeger's songwriting. Fuck, that's so annoying. Actually, Hero is, speaking of soundtracks with great songs, Spider-Man 2's Hero is a genuinely great song, and Josie Scott gives a really good vocal performance.
Wait, is that two or one?
like
which
two.
one's
Two.
zero?
It's definitely two.
It is one.
What's one?
Dashboards Vindicated is the first one.
No. Oh, no, sorry.
No, they're both on two.
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
Well, please look it up. No, we're here.
Yeah, no. We're here, but we're gonna wrap.
Well, then wrap while I look it up. Jesus.
Okay. As we do wrap, I just want to let everybody know that the Mona Lisa Smile soundtrack has Seal, Elton John, Chris Isaac, Lisa Stansfield, Macy Gray, Mandy Moore, Barbara Streisand,
I'm
Celine
wrong.
Dion.
It is 1 and 2. You guys are
Okay.
totally right. I am totally wrong.
No, he was with you. He said it was 2.
I did, yes. But then when
But you
Kevin
said
brought
Lisa
up,
Stansfield, performer of All Around the World, and that excellent cover of Never Gonna Give You Up. Please continue.
that is correct. Celine Dion, Tori Amos, of course, is how we got there. Alison Krauss, Kelly Rowland, and
For
Rachel
what?
Portman. What?
You mean Beyonce's big sister, Kelly Rowland?
I think she's the little sister.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm a bigger Kelly Rowland fan.
I am
When you
too.
rise in power, do you become the big sister in that situation?
I don't know. When you rise in excellence as the underdog, I think you get a little bit more credit.
Oh, no.
Like,
Kelly is older by 6 months.
okay. I just want to
Um,
say, as we wrap
And
this
as someone who is 2 weeks older than you,
Kelly Rowland Kelly Rowland auditioned for Destiny's Child with the hook from Whitney Houston's what was the cool super cool song that Whitney Houston did that she this is gonna kill
I'll
me.
always love you.
No, it's the hot one. Whitney Houston discography. No one cut me off. This is so exciting. I used the
You
wrong
didn't
team.
Google it. You sent it to me.
I'm your baby tonight.
Both of us.
I'm your baby tonight. Thank you. I sent it to Kevo. I typed them.
No, you sent it to both of us at least.
Yeah.
Well,
Not- we're
great.
not
It's I'm your baby tonight. She
Yeah,
you need to
she
get off.
auditioned with the and I only want to say that one of the things that occasionally is what we're talking about is that people like Kelly Rowland kind of get forgotten to time in favor of other people. People always talk about how the Taylor's albums of everything came out, but nobody ever talks about how Tori Amos released Gold Dust, not just to do those songs with an unbelievable, unforgettable orchestra, but to do those songs the way she would have done them with all of the wisdom she has now. So, I'm so sorry that we took such a silly way to get there. But to make that Beyonce to Kelly Rowland comparison as two beautiful women who respect each other so much, we literally have videos of Taylor Swift and Tori Amos respecting each other with all their hearts. And I think that's the sort of attitude we want to go out on. We're never saying, like, why are artists re-releasing things? It's stupid. We're saying, like, hey, but what is going on? And then we talked about a trillion other things. But that's the whole point of this. We're just having a good time. Kevo, producer, commander, Kevin Arthur. I believe that next weekend, just about this time, we're going to be packing our brand new Honda HR-V 2025 Sport Edition. Where are we going to be heading?
We are going to be heading very excitingly to FlameCon. We're excited for FlameCon, everyone. We're going to be on the show floor, and we also have some amazing programming. On Saturday, we are going to be talking about celebrating queer visibility in youth entertainment with a panel called Not Like When We Were Kids. And we're going to talk about all sorts of, progress and exciting things that have happened in youth entertainment as far as queer visibility, and that's going to be fun. And then on Saturday, we have Diamonds Are Forever with 60 years of boundary-pushing science fiction featuring Doctor Who and Star Trek. I actually submitted and got approved this panel before SDCC even announced that they were having the Universal Friendship Day panel. So that was really exciting. A lot of people are really disappointed that the only announcement out of that panel was that it was a crossover between the two games. But there's, I believe, so many steps before we can potentially have a real crossover between these two franchises. But we
have to know who owns Paramount.
Oh my gosh, yes. All the stuff going on with Paramount Network. I don't even know where Strange New World Season 4 is going to air, if we get that far at all. So we'll be talking about those with a queer lens because it's FlameCon. So we are very excited for that next week.
And until then, where can everybody find you online if they want to find out all of the incredible things that we're going to be offering at FlameCon next weekend and all of our unbelievable programming across our channels like X is for Podcast and X is for Show?
Kevo Really, that's KevoReally. Teak, where can the folks don't find you?
You can find me at TK Elemental. You already know. Nico.
Bring it to you every
Stop
bowl.
this. You guys can find me. Deep cut. You guys can find me at Nico Action. And if you want to check out my songs, you can check me out at Nico Action Music. That's NICOACTION and at MUSIC. If you want to check out the tracks, we talked a lot about covers and re-releasing things. You guys can find all of my music over on SoundCloud and YouTube. I'm so proud to share my music with you guys. I love creating, and I love creating the show with these three guys. I had a really hard week. I've had a really hard month. I've worked a couple of 80-hour weeks this last couple of months, and I am pretty tired. But something that makes me feel really warm inside is just getting to be on air with these guys, and it is the dream of a lifetime, and it's getting to be on air with you guys. So 3 things you guys could do for us. 1, 2, 3, like, comment, and subscribe. It's pretty simple. Just let us know what you like, let us know what you don't like, but definitely click like so that we can keep giving you guys this shit all the time. But 3 things that you guys could do for us. It's real important. We would love it if you guys stayed safe. We would love it if you guys made sure to always take care of yourselves, because one of the things that we are certainly aware of is that this is a kind of crazy time, but we want to see you guys be brave and evolve daily. That's SSBBED. And if you guys can do that, it is a simple system and it'll keep you guys safe. So until next time, we definitely can't wait to see you guys. So stay safe, be brave, evolve daily, and we'll see you.